Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the newest installment of the Ajay Bruno Show. We are privileged to have a true legend on the show today. My guest, James Darren, is an incredibly accomplished singer and actor who's appeared in everything from the classic film The Guns of Navarone to T.J. Hooker and Star Trek Deep Space Nine. We're just waiting to get him on the line here, so he should be along shortly. In the meantime, I want to remind everyone, if you're not signed up for the email list yet, be sure to do that. Go to tinyurl.com/The Ajay Bruno Show. You won't get spams, just a few emails a month letting you know about shows we have happening, whether they're ones that just occurred, ones that are coming up. Basically the essential information, so you're kept up to date with that. We'll also have some exciting programs coming up soon. And we are just going to wait here for a minute or so, and we should be able to get the show rolling. We've got a lot to talk about today, whether it's his long and successful musical career, numerous hit songs, whether that was Goodbye Cruel World, hit number 3, Her Royal Majesty, hit number 6, a lot of other top hits. He's been in a lot of movies and TV shows, some of which we've mentioned, and others of which we will mention later on in the show. So it shouldn't be long now till we get him on the air. In the meantime, please be patient with me for just a few minutes. And we're going to start the show right now. Let's get him on the air. Hello, Mr. Darren. It's an honor to have you with us.
Hi, Bruno. How are you?
Great. So let's get right into it. So let's start at the root of it all. How did you originally get your passion for music and acting, and what made you ultimately pursue both so aggressively?
Well, I was studying acting in New York City, and I had photos taken, and it was all fate, believe me. The photographer's secretary introduced me to a woman named Joyce Selznick, and Joyce got me a contract with Columbia Pictures. And I was just guided by some good people. You know, it wasn't that I was so ambitious. I wanted to be an actor, of course, but I didn't have tremendous drive. But the people around me were real supportive, and they made sure everything went right. You know.
Great. So you're often described as having been something of a teen idol in the earlier part of your career. How did you feel about having this status at the time, and now looking back later on?
Well, I think it's great. I think a lot of us did, whether it be Paul Anka, Bobby Rydell, or Dion and the Belmonts. Elvis. You know, I guess to be a teen idol is a nice compliment.
Sure. So I like some of your earlier music, but I really thought you were phenomenal when you became something of a crooner, to the point where the quality was really right up there with Sinatra, in my view. Having said that. I think you can compete with them. But having said that, what are some of the songs you've most enjoyed performing throughout your career, and did you have any specific influences in how you approach your music in different points?
Well, you know something, when I first started recording, I did a song called Angel Face with Doc Pomus and Morty Schumann, two wonderful writers. They also produced the record. And we did it at A&R Studios in New York. And that was, it was a nice tune. They were very good writers. They wrote a lot of Elvis's tunes. But then I was always with Colpix Records in the beginning, this Columbia Pictures label. And I then was produced by Stu Phillips, who did Goodbye Cruel World and Her Royal Majesty, which was Carole King and Jerry Goffin's tune, and Conscience, and a whole bunch of other songs. But Stu and I did it, which are novelty tunes. I wasn't really insane about those songs, even though I've talked to people that I have great respect for that love them. You know, I met Bruce Springsteen one day, and he said the first thing that came out of his mouth was Goodbye Cruel World, and Clint Eastwood, the same thing. First thing, Goodbye Cruel World. And it's not that I don't like the song, it's just that I don't like that it's a novelty tune. But in 1961, I think it was, Stu and I did an album called Love Among the Young, which was really a beautiful album. Stu did a great job producing and arranging the tunes, and that was really probably my favorite album, and probably some of the favorite songs to sing for me anyway. And they were selected mostly by Stu. I had an opinion, whether I liked it or didn't like it. If I didn't like it, of course I didn't do it, because if you don't like something, you're not going to do it well. But then later, when I signed with Warner Brothers, and Dick Glasser was producing me, and he did some really nice cuts. I mean, All, and a whole bunch of tunes that were, all became a chart record. And it was a real good tune, but still not really where I wanted to be. The one that I did with Stu Phillips earlier was where I really wanted to be. And then later, much later, after I did Star Trek, DS9, playing Vic Fontaine, I then recorded the tunes that that I really felt most comfortable with, like "Come Fly with Me" or "My Kind of Gal." Those tunes.
Sure. Now we're definitely going to get to Vic Fontaine in a little bit. I want to touch real quick on Her Royal Majesty. I know there was a bit of a controversy when that was released in the UK. I don't see how the song is offensive. What did you think of how it was received there?
I didn't know that it was. I knew that Goodbye Cruel World was banned in Italy because they thought it was kind of like promoting doing away with yourself, which is silly, of course. But I did not know about Her Royal Majesty being controversial in the UK. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, I could see that. Yeah. I like that. Yeah, no. I think it's fun, actually.
I heard the BBC had banned it or restricted it, so...
Really? That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So for those who haven't toured the country and performed in Vegas countless times, can you tell us, what is it like being so prolific and performing over the years in so many different places?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm really fortunate. I think any of us who have stayed in the business this long, of course, you have to be prepared. You can't just get up on stage and do it. You have to really work hard to make sure everything is as perfect as you can possibly get it. But my first date in Vegas was with Joey Bishop at the Sands Hotel, which of course is the great Sands Hotel. And there's something very special about working Vegas. I mean, I've been working at the South Point, which is just at the very beginning of the Strip. I've been there about 9 or 10 years now. And it's just it has I guess, a magical kind of aura to it, Vegas, and to work there. Even though at this point, it's like, I guess, kind of like working any venue, any nice venue. Vegas has great sound, great lights, and always have wonderful crews. So you're a bit ahead of the game. You don't have to suffer through like the early days when you'd work these small clubs around the country. Man, I tell you, it was great training, because sometimes it would be murderous because the sound would be terrible or the lights would be horrible. But then, like I said, you get very fortunate and stay in the business long enough, everything gets right.
Sure, it's fantastic. So before we pivot over to your acting career, I have to ask about your relationship with Old Blue Eyes and the King of Rock and Roll himself. So what was it like to be a personal friend of Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra, and can you share any stories that still stand out to you?
Well, I mean, the thing with Elvis, we used to play football down at Coldwater Canyon Park in Beverly Hills, and then I'd visit him on the set once in a while. He was at MGM making films, and he was just a great guy. I mean, I loved Elvis. He was very genuine, and it just was he was one of the pals, you know. He just was. There was no pretense with him. And for Frank Sinatra, I mean, of course, he's my idol. I love Frank Sinatra. He's the greatest singer ever, the greatest pop singer for sure. And he was just very kind to me also, you know. He and his daughter Nancy and I are great friends, and her mom and I, and her mom is now 101 years old, believe it or not.
Wow.
And she's amazing. She's so sharp and so aware of everything. And I visit her once in a while, but Nancy and I are great friends. Frank was he was just a wonderful guy. He's just, you know, a very genuine human being. I loved the magic that this guy threw off. I spent almost every day that they shot Pal Joey. They shot it at Columbia Pictures, where I was under contract, and I visited Frank just about every day on that set. So it was quite exciting, and exciting to be in his company, you know, in Frank's company. I mean, he was an incredible star, like Elvis, of course. But Frank, you know, from when I was a kid in Philly, I mean, I used to play. There was a song he recorded many times, but his first recording of it, of the song "How Little We Know," was and probably is my favorite tune of all time of Frank Sinatra's, even though he has many great tunes or great recordings. But so he was something that was with me from my childhood, and I just absolutely love Frank Sinatra.
No, couldn't ask for a better musical idol. So, switching over to more on the acting side here, can you describe the experience of working in Hollywood during the latter part of the Golden Age, and what do you think of the dramatic ways it's changed compared to modern cinema?
You know, I mean, when I first got to California, it was in June, and I started my first film like 3 weeks after I landed, and it wasn't even planned. Sam Katzman, who was noted for doing these 6-day westerns, was doing a movie called Rumble on the Docks, and he wanted me to play the lead. Why? I'll never know, because I hadn't done anything except for studying with Stella Adler for a couple of years in New York. But it was interesting because I never felt kind of strange or out of place. It just felt all so natural to me to act, you know. And the cast was wonderful, very supportive. Some of them veteran actors, so that made it easier than it would have been normally. As for today, I don't know. Lots of things are done for TV, and some of them are wonderful. Some I think are rushed. You know, they don't take the time to really do it the way it probably would be done better. You know, I see some European TV shows, whether they be from the UK or from Copenhagen, from Denmark rather, and they're just done so beautifully. They take time when they light and when they direct. Lots of times in the U.S., not always, but lots of times in TV series, you know, you only have 9 days. It used to be 7 days, but 9-10 days to put out an hour of show, which is really about 50 minutes, 50 minutes. But it's not, you know, they don't have the time really. You know, they churn them out pretty quickly, and I always think that's kind of sad.
No, it's definitely rushed in a lot of ways nowadays.
Yeah,
so
it is. I mean, it's like I said, if you see the European shows, I don't know what it is, but the texture of them is so much so much nicer to me anyway.
Sure. So I know after you were in a movie like Diamond Head that you weren't exactly enthusiastic about returning for another Gidget movie because of the lack of depth to the character compared to your ability as an actor. Did you ever enjoy being in the Gidget movies, or was it primarily just to see where it would lead to in terms of other acting opportunities?
No, the first Gidget movie I thought was really wonderful. I thought Sandra Dee was the best of all the Gidgets, and I thought that first script was the best of all the scripts. Paul Wenkos, who directed all three, was a very good director, and I thought that movie was very much like the Rock Hudson Doris Day Pillow Talk movies. But then when they did Gidget Goes Hawaiian, it was all right, but then it became kind of trite, and especially Gidget Goes to Rome. I didn't want to do that for lots of reasons. Even though I have many fans, they'll probably hate me for saying it, that I wasn't crazy about that film, but they love it. They love Gidget Goes to Rome, and as long as they enjoy it, that's all that really matters. As far as I was concerned, I was really didn't want to be pigeonholed as Moondog. I mean, three films, two sequels, to the original Gidget was for me a little too much. Even though I did have a good time doing them, like I said again, I had a wonderful cast with me, and Paul was a wonderful director, and I had fun, But I mean, I don't regret having done them at all, and the thing that's important to me is that the fans like them.
Sure. Did you think Diamond Head was the first time you were able to be really taken seriously as a skilled actor?
No, to be honest with you, the first time I think was when I did a film called Let No Man Write My Epitaph with Shelley Winters and Burl Ives, Ricardo Montalban, Gene Seberg, Ella Fitzgerald. That was the first time, I think, because it was like one of the best roles I ever had, for sure. So I think that was the first time that, I could look at my work and say, I like most of it or some of it. Because many times I never watched dailies because I just couldn't tolerate to watch myself every day and then go and film and do all that stuff. And then you find yourself doing things that you may not like as an actor, but they work for the character, they work for the script, whatever. And if you see it and you don't like it, then you're so self-conscious about doing things. That's why I never watch dailies, And to be honest with you, the films I've done, I mean, I may have seen them maybe twice at the most. I don't watch my films.
Well, one of my favorite classic films is actually the Guns of Navarone, and I just thought that was phenomenal. What was the experience like making that movie, and especially working with a cast full of some of the greatest actors?
Well, I mean, the fact that you work with Gregory Peck and Niven and Tony Quinn and Stanley Baker, Anthony Quayle, two great English actors, Irene Pappas, Gia Scala. I mean, everybody was really just knockout actors. They were just great actors, and that, of course, makes your job a lot easier. When you work, it's like playing tennis. If you play tennis with a bad opponent, you're going to not play well. If you play with a good player, it's going to make you play your best game. So, of course, for me, working with those wonderful actors, it just made me, I guess, better than what I would have normally been.
Sure. So one of your TV roles, The Time Tunnel, really was probably your first sci-fi role. How did that early experience influence your view of the science fiction genre moving forward?
How did it do what?
How did it influence your view of the science fiction genre moving forward?
Well, the thing is, I did not. I had done films before that. It was my first TV series. I did not want to do the science fiction thing. Not because I did not like science fiction. I do, but I just didn't want to do it. I really didn't want to do a TV series. But Irwin Allen, who produced and created that show and directed the pilot, Irwin was very convincing, and if you had known him, you would know what I mean, because he, if he wants you to do something, man, he can talk you into it. And I loved Irwin. He was a great guy, and I think I think there are some episodes in the time tunnel that gave me the opportunity to show a bit of skill, as an actor. And there was one episode called, I think, the day the sky fell in, I believe, about Pearl Harbor, and that was, there were some interesting scripts. Some I liked, some I didn't like, but that again was another fun show to do. I've not had a bad experience working on a film to date. I mean, the latest film I did was a film called Lucky with Harry Dean Stanton and Ed Begley Jr. and a few other guys and myself had cameos or small roles in the film, supporting roles. And that was interesting to work with Harry Dean Stanton because he was a wonderful actor and a great guy. And like I said, I've been fortunate. I can't name one film where I had which was a bad experience.
Sure. Well, we were actually going to get to Lucky, but since we're on the subject now, you hadn't acted in a lot of years before that movie. What made you decide to come back for that one in particular?
Well, again, I talked about fate earlier. I was up on Mulholland Drive, which is a famous road here in L.A., having my car loaded onto a flatbed to be taken to service. It was a 58 Porsche Speedster. And, I didn't drive it except for Sundays when no one was around, like 5 in the morning, for fear of being hit, or in an accident.
Wow.
But anyway, the guy who put me in Star Trek DS9, Ira Stephen Bear, who was the exec producer of that show, was driving by and spun around, came over and talked to me and asked me, if I would be interested in doing a film. And I really wasn't, because I'm enjoying singing and I have a great time, working before a live audience. But anyway, about 3 days later, I mean, had he not seen me up there, he probably would not have thought of me. But about 3 days later, he called me. He said, "You want to come down and meet the producers and the director, blah, blah, blah." And I did. And then I read the script. It was a wonderful script. And Ira wrote most of my character's stuff, And then to work with Harry Dean Stanton was a real kick. So I thought, man, yeah, I'm going to do this. That would be great. But to be quite honest with you, I mean, I love acting, but I really enjoy singing, performing before a live audience much more. I mean, after all these years, the thing is, you have so much downtime on a film. You do a scene, then you sit around for a half hour or whatever, more, while they light, maybe an hour, maybe more, maybe an hour and a half. Right. And that's kind of boring, So to sing, you're up there for an hour and a half, 2 hours or more, and enjoying every second of it. So I prefer that.
No, that definitely makes sense to me. So before we get into Star Trek, we have a good lead-in for that. A series you worked on the longest was T.J. Hooker.
Right.
So before you ever involved in Star Trek, you worked with William Shatner. How was it being a TV cop for years with Captain Kirk?
I loved it. When a friend of mine was the exec producer on that show, Rick Husky, who's from my hometown of Philadelphia, and we're having dinner one night, and my wife said to him, because I had been on the road, I was on the road 40 weeks with Buddy Hackett, and my wife said to Rick, "Gee, why don't you put Jimmy in a show and get him off the road?" And that's how T.J. Hooker happened. And they asked me who I would like as my partner, and I said, "Well, you got to be kidding! I mean, of course, Heather Locklear. I mean, that's who any guy would like as his partner." So if I had to be in a car all day, it was with Heather, which was great fun. She's a terrific person. But Bill and I had a great time. He's a good guy, and he and I became more friendly as the years have gone on, and I really have a soft spot in my heart for Bill. He's a good guy and a good friend. That's
great. So you entered a whole new realm of fandom when you took on the role of Vic Fontaine in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I thought it was a great character, and some of the episodes you were in were really among the best, especially in those later seasons. What did you most enjoy about the role, and what did it mean to you having this whole new dimension of Star Trek fans that you hadn't experienced before?
You know, I didn't even realize about the fans until maybe I had done about 6 or 7 episodes, and when they were aired, and the people who would recognize me or recognize even my speaking voice. I mean, I was at like a Best Buy or something one day, and this young gal, she couldn't have been more than like 20 years old, and I'm talking. She looked at me. She said, "I know your voice. Did you play Vic Fontaine?" I mean, it was like weird, you know. I said, "Yeah." Wow. It was great. I mean, the Trekkies are real dedicated fans. I mean, they are true fans. Just like when you're a teen idol. I mean, those fans will do whatever. They'll climb the highest mountain. They'll whatever it takes to get to see the person that they care about. I mean, I still have so many fans from my teen years, you know, my early years. People, when I work Vegas, sometimes it's astounding. I see people, you know, there's some Asian people in the front row, and I ask them where they're from. They'll say Japan. I say, "Oh, you came in to tour Vegas?" "No, we came in to see you." "From Japan?" "Yeah."
Wow.
And from Australia? I mean, I'm not, you know, speaking out of school here. I'm not BSing you. They actually fly in, and they do that with any performer they care about. But that's pretty astounding, isn't it? Fly in from Australia to see me perform, or from Japan. I mean, wow.
Oh, those are super fans. Yeah.
Yeah, they're super fans, and that's exactly what the Trekkies are. They're super fans. They are really dedicated fans, and
sure.
I'm thrilled that I did that series, and I feel very fortunate having done it, and I thank Ira Bear for, you know, he's the one that wanted me in that role of Vic Fontaine badly. So, and I thank him for that, and I was very comfortable playing that, because, you know, it was very much like when I would go see Sinatra and Dean Martin and Sammy. Well, Sammy was a good friend too, Sammy Davis Jr. But see them perform, and the role of Vic Fontaine, Vic, took me back to that era, and it was. I felt that he was a contraction of like Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra. You know, he had that kind of coolness that Dean has, and the kind of frankness that Frank had. You know, so it was a pleasure to do that role.
Sure, no, it was definitely a combination of all of them. So for me, I really loved your duet with Avery Brooks. Do you have a particular moment from your time in the series that really stands out the most?
Well, that's got to be, I think, the most. Huh. Because, number one, to have Cisco come up there and sing with you was like, you know, I mean, only Ira could, like, be that out there to write something like that. I mean, it was like, I don't know how the hell they even thought of that. And Avery Brooks, who's an incredibly talented musician, aside from being a wonderful actor, he's a great. He plays great jazz piano and sings well. And for me to do that with him was a real kick in the head. It was I'd say one of the great moments of that my doing that show, that series.
It's one of the highlights of the series itself for me. Just a great, memorable scene.
Yeah.
Sure. So there's a documentary actually about DS9 coming out. Do you have anything you could share about your involvement in that? Well,
I mean, I was just interviewed by Ira, and I haven't seen a foot of the documentary yet, but I'm sure I will. You know, they've been working on it for a long time. I told Ira if they don't get it out soon, it'll be in the archives before it's released. So, I mean, he better get it out quick. I mean, they've been working on it for like years.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I'm sure it'll be great. You know, if Ira Bear is involved, which he is, of course, it's his baby, and it'll be good. He has great taste and great talent, and I expect nothing but a real nice documentary.
No, I'm looking forward to it myself.
I really am too.
Yeah, I heard it's out in August. I don't know if they're going to push it again, but that's what they're saying.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, I'll believe it when I see it because they've been saying that for a while. And then what happens is, Ira will say, you know, I saw this edit or this cut, and it's good, but there's something's not there. Something's wrong. And they'll go in and they'll play with it for a while again, another month maybe, and then, you know, watch it and, okay, we're going to release it next month. And, of course, they'll watch it again and then find something else. And, you know, you seek perfection sometimes too much, you know,
right.
Because you can go on forever and ever and ever to try to find perfection. And, you know, it just really never happens. The only time that I think I saw that something that was pure perfection was Marlon Brando's performance in On the Waterfront. It was incredibly perfect. It was so unreal. I mean, every moment, everything he did, it's to me the greatest performance ever of anyone. I mean, and there are a lot of great performances. I don't mean to, you know, I mean, there's so many. I mean, Peter O'Toole in Lawrence of Arabia was incredible. William Holden in Bridge on the River Kwai, and you know, there's so many movies. But Brando, man, he just blew me away. I couldn't believe how incredible he was.
No, he's one of the greats too. Especially you mentioned Lawrence of Arabia. That's one of my all-time favorite films. So.
Well, mine too, and Bridge on the River Kwai as well. I mean, that's a great film. Yeah.
Definitely.
A little bit of trivia for you. The book, the original title was Bridge Over the River Kwai.
Huh.
That was the title of the book. My son Christian, who's a writer. I have three sons: Jimmy, Christian, and Anthony. Jimmy's a newscaster, Christian's a writer, and Anthony's a guitarist. But Christian, who's a writer and an avid reader, I mean, he reads I don't know how many books a week. This guy. I mean, I got him on that about Bridge Over the River Kwai. So I thought made me feel pretty good.
Oh. That's an interesting piece of trivia. So
yeah, it is.
Yeah. So before we get to the last couple of questions, I was curious: were you ever a Star Trek fan in general, or what sort of series were you a fan of?
No, I was not really a Star Trek fan. I mean, I watched the original one that Leonard Nimoy and Shatner did, and I enjoyed the shows. I thought they were wonderful, but I never really was a fan, like a dedicated fan. TV shows that I watched were mostly comedy. I mean, I watched like Gleason or like Lucy. I love Lucy. Sid Caesar, which is long. All of these are before your time. But those were really great shows. Sid Caesar was, of course, live. I mean, that wasn't even taped. That was done live before a live audience, and that's it. Good or bad, you know, that you were stuck with it. But he was so brilliant, and Imogen Coca and the cast there. It was just an amazing show. All those shows were great. I know what show I liked. I liked. Oh my goodness, I'm going a little brain dead here. The one. Oh Jesus, help me out here. The one with David Jansen. Oh my, isn't that terrible?
Let's see.
Where he's after the guy, the one-armed guy who has killed his wife.
Oh,
because Harrison Ford did a movie.
Yeah. Fugitive.
We're both brain dead here this morning.
Was The Fugitive, right?
The Fugitive. Damn it! Yes, of course.
Yeah.
That was a good show. I liked that show very much.
Yeah.
I thought it was really done well, and James Garner. I mean, he did a couple of a good series, and Tom Selleck, Magnum P.I. I like that show. You know,
no, it's a
they
good
were kind of Tom was. I mean, he was so charming. He's a friend, and he was so charming in that show. It was like kind of tongue in cheek. And Larry Minetti, who's a buddy of mine, was in the show. I enjoyed watching that show very much. And then, of course, in Hawaii, what the heck's not to like?
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Makes sense.
I mean, you see that beautiful island, and it's great.
No, I can imagine. So, actually, speaking of tropical locations, I know you were on the first Star Trek, The Cruise. I was actually on the second. I was pretty disappointed you weren't the musical guest that year. So how was that experience for you? And how does that compare to all the other conventions you've done?
Well, I mean, The Cruise, I thought I was going to be bombarded by the fans, but they're really respectful. I mean, nobody. I mean, I felt a little lost at one point because they were so considerate. They never even come up to you on the cruise except to pass you in the in the corridor or something, or in the restaurant and say hi. But I had a great time. I performed on that, and it's a wonderful theater. That particular ship I was on, the theater was just beautiful. The only drag was when the ship was rocking a bit, and man, it's hard to keep still on the stage. It was like I had a few too many drinks, but it was great fun. I like doing doing the show. The fans they're so appreciative. I mean, they make you feel so good that to perform for Star Trek fans, man, it's I don't think anything beats it.
Oh, that's great. So I know you'll be at Destination Star Trek in Germany coming up. Is there
I'm
anything
not going
else?
to do that show,
no?
unfortunately.
Oh, you're not?
No, I was going to, but I had to pull out for personal reasons. But I will be at the Star Trek convention in August, which is in Vegas. That's August 1st, I believe, through the 5th or something. And then after that, on the 25th and 26th, I'm at the South Point in Vegas doing my show. Yeah, the Germany thing I really wanted to go to. I've never been to Germany, and I would love to go to Germany, and I hope I have the opportunity someday. But unfortunately, something got in the way, and I couldn't do that
Sure.
that date.
Yeah. Have you been to other foreign conventions, or mostly the U.S. ones?
I've done quite a few. I mean, just about all over the country: Chicago, New York, all over. I mean, I could, L.A. of course, a whole bunch of conventions. They're all great. Like I said, the fans are just wonderful. They really feed your ego, to say the least.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So coming up, is there anything we should keep an eye out for you? You said you're doing some shows in Vegas. Will there be any touring beyond that, or maybe someone will drag you back to another acting role, anything like that?
Well, I'm hoping to go and I started recording about 6 months ago, and then stopped, only because I wasn't getting what I wanted. I sound like Ira Bear here. I wasn't getting exactly what I wanted. I don't want it to be like everything else I did. I want a little different. So hopefully in the next month or two, I'll go back into the studio as soon as I work on what I'm trying to achieve. The sound. If I don't mean my vocal sound, I mean the sound of the entire product. So it's
Right.
we try to not necessarily stay contemporary, because I believe pop music will always be contemporary, but you try to do things with a bit of a bit of newness,
Sure. No. Although the last album you did was all the songs from Star Trek, and while not being new, those were just so great that anything like that would be fantastic to put out also.
Yeah, I mean, and then I did an album called Because of You. The first one was This One's From the Heart, and then I did Because of You, which has also great tunes in it. I mean, if you choose from all the great writers, it's hard to go wrong. It really is. I would just like to do tunes that are a bit more contemporary, that are, and it's hard to find, that are as good as the ones from many years ago, decades ago. But sure. I found them, and the thing is to do them the way I can do them, and do them properly and do them well. Then so I'll be satisfied. So it doesn't sound like I'm trying to do a tune that doesn't fit me, because that's the worst thing in the world.
No. But no, I read in an interview that you said you were not the biggest fan of rap, and I have to agree with that. It's hardly music, and I wish there was more music like yours nowadays.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of rap, but I do appreciate it. I really do. I mean, and if you think about when that started, you have to think of James Brown. I mean, James Brown with that same riff, whatever the riff was, and that's rap. I mean, he was doing what was like the birth of rap for me, anyway. I mean, and I mean, I'm a big James Brown fan, and but I really. I saw a movie. I saw Out of Compton, and I didn't think I was going to like it because it was all rap music, but I loved it. I love the music. I love the story of the people involved in the music and what they had to go through to even get this stuff started. And it makes you, if you haven't seen that film, you should see it. Out of Compton. It's a wonderful film. And it really makes you appreciate rap. It really does. I mean, it ain't something I can like totally relate to. I can relate to it in a sense, of course. We all can, because they're talking about their problems or whatever may be bugging them or making them happy, like all other songs tell us, but in a much different way. And like I said, you see the film, and you'll really appreciate rap.
Sure. Well, it was a great pleasure to speak with you, and thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you. It was my pleasure, and you take care, and I hope to talk to you soon.
You too. Me as well.
Hey,
thanks.
Listen, if you're ever at a convention that I'm at, make sure you let me know.
Oh, I will definitely do that.
Okay. You take care, man.
All right. You too.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Well, that was the great James Darren. We started a little bit late, but I hope it was worth the wait for you. Really a legend and a fantastic episode we had there. So we'll be having some new shows out soon. So future guests, you have some tough competition. Anyway, this has been the Ajay Bruno Show. Until next time, I'll see you then, and I'm signing off. Thanks.